Hello and welcome to another round of championship predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap how we got on within the last week of the championship. And let's start off with the weekend's action. Two perfect scores overall, one each. Both of them ended 1-0 to the home side. Daniel Cody's was Blackpool 1-0 win against Millwall, and mine was Stoke's 1-0 win against Preston. So overall, that ended 6-all. I think that's for the first time we actually ended level from the weekend. Getting on to the midweek games, not the same this time. Two perfect scores, and both were for me. Luton 2, Bristol City 1, and Forest 3, Barnsley 1. So overall, there's 7 points for me, and just the odd point for Mr. Daniel Cody. So let's get on with match day 29. It's Friday night football to start with. It's Huddersfield Town versus Stoke City. Huddersfield had a crazy game last Saturday, winning 4-3 at Reading. Stoke played midweek, lost away to Coventry.
Yeah, they got Michael O'Neill, didn't they? It went in reverse of what I would have expected. You mentioned the Huddersfield Reading game, absolutely nuts. We were at Sheffield United Luton, and as the scores were coming in at half time, there was an exasperated sound across the stadium. But ultimately, Huddersfield came out with the win, and they continue to go under the radar. They're still picking up results. They're still in sixth place. They deserve so much credit because I thought they'd be near the middle of the bottom half, I've got to be honest, at the start of the season. Stoke still in that playoff mix. You feel after back-to-back defeats, albeit against two of the top half sides, you've got to start to win some of those games against the teams around you if you want to get into that playoff mix. They're now, 6 points behind Huddersfield, game in hand. They win this, it's then back in their destiny. So I feel that it means more for Stoke than it does for Huddersfield, but I can't predict them to win. I'm going back to the Championship's favourite scoreline, which Huddersfield had the previous game. I'm going to go for 1-1 to start off.
Huddersfield obviously doing really well. Obviously, some of the goals they conceded were criminal on last Saturday, 3-0 at half time, but obviously, hat-trick to score the winner as well. So that's pleasing. Yeah, I think I have to agree. They have gone under the radar. They've just plodded along and just picked up points here and there and everywhere. And you've got to give Carlos Cavaran a bit of credit on that. Stoke, bit of a mixed bag at the moment. Yeah, it's a really weird one with them. It's not, unless there's injuries in that side, it doesn't really look settled. But how am I going to go with this game? I'm going to go 2-1 to Stoke.
Oh,
just. Right, next up on Saturday, it's Barnsley versus Bournemouth at Oakwell. Barnsley lost 3-0 to Nottingham Forest. They tried to get that game called off, apparently. Not enough players, allegedly. Bournemouth lost again. Is this starting to be a crisis point, or they're lucky that they got Barnsley?
I don't know, really, because it was only 2 weeks before that, when they were going up to the FA Cup tie and with Cardiff over Christmas and QPR, that we said they're back to their vintage best. So I don't know if it's time to panic yet. Look, the Luton game was seconds away from being a decent point. The whole game, they were dominant. They just didn't take their chances and let in a sloppy goal. These things happen. And as you say, they're probably lucky they're playing Barnsley, because if there's a game you want to bounce back, it's Barnsley at the moment. They are, I said before midweek's game, they're virtually down and they did nothing to convince me otherwise against Forest. They're playing another good side. I think they'll be too strong. I'm going to go one less this time. I know it cost me with Forest, but I'm going to go 2-0 Bournemouth, one of the strongest teams on the road in the league, and Barnsley are awful home and away.
Yeah, I'll say I'm worried for Barnsley. I'm not worried anymore because I think
it's done, isn't it?
It's done. And I know they've got 20 games to go, but I feel like it's done. I can't see the miracle of them surviving. They done it a couple of years ago. I think the break actually helped them in a way. I really can't see anything from this Barnsley side at all. Bournemouth, yeah, they need to get back into winning ways. Obviously, Blackburn have gone ahead of them now. So, but yeah, it's starting to get a little bit, losing the way a little bit. Obviously, 8 points behind Fulham now. But they will go back to winning ways. I don't normally do this. I'm going to go 4-0 to Bournemouth. Next up at Craven Cottage, it is Fulham versus Blackpool. Fulham won 3-2 at Stoke last week. I did say it wasn't going to be easy. And Blackpool, on the other hand, they won 1-0 at home to Millwall. 2 wins in a row now for Blackpool. Don't expect another 6 odd goals at Craven Cottage this time.
No, I think it'll be a bit closer. Blackpool have generally put up decent fights against some of the top teams this season. They won 1-0 against Fulham in a reverse fixture right at the start of the year. Look, Fulham, they're in great goal scoring form. You can't bank against them to score. So Fulham, for me, will get a couple. I think Blackpool will put up a fight, but they don't score many. And away from home at Fulham, I don't think they're going to get enough chances to take one. So, like you said, I think it's going to be a little bit calmer. I'm stuck again between 2 or 3-0, and I went 2 for the last one, so I'm going to go 3-0 to Fulham for this one.
What we've noticed is that for them, all right, they do score goals, but they do concede as well. I can't remember apart from the Reading game, when was the last time they actually kept a clean sheet, a run of clean sheets as well? So, yeah, they are definitely taking. Blackpool can cause some problems. I really do believe that. Shane Lavery scoring again last week as well. As a Daniel Cody tribute there. I'm going to go 2-1 Fulham. I think I said it was tight last week and they conceded within a minute. I think it's going to be tight again. Right, next up, it's managers Hull at the time of recording on Thursday. Hull, they're at home to Swansea. Hull picked up that win at Bournemouth. Swansea drew 0-0 with QPR in midweek. You can probably say it's a good point for them. But let's get on to Hull. 2 wins in a row under the new owner. And Grant McCann walks.
Yeah, well, I don't think he walked.
I say he walks. He's sacked.
He's going to say he was more pushed. But look, there's a part of it I respect, which is that there's no point waiting for him to lose to kick him out. But I do worry if Hull are going to regret this timing. I know he's talked about the project and that this was always going to happen, and he's been very honest and transparent with it, so there's no problems at all. I've got a feeling before the weekend's fixtures, we'll probably have a Hull manager special, but I'm intrigued. I know they've brought back Regan Slater, who they had last season on loan as they won promotion from League One. And I know there's going to be some bigger signings and probably some from Turkey. The talks of Ryan Babel potentially coming in at 35, which is crazy. I just wonder if it's a little bit too early to start to think about the bigger term future, because it's only 9 points clear. Peterborough have got a game in hand and looks a bit better themselves in midweek. So I feel it might have been just a week or two too early. Swansea have, to be fair to them, Swansea, they've really shored up defensively the last few games. Only one conceded against Huddersfield, back-to-back clean sheets, did a solid job at QPR in the week, really decent at home to Preston last weekend. I think this is going to be a close game, but do you know what? I think there's not going to be a new manager bounce. Avaladze will be in charge by then, but Swansea are going to nick it by 1-0. I think Hull will go back to the not scoring fiasco that we saw near the start of the season.
Do you know what? This is probably going to be the game I'm not too sure on, because I don't know what to expect from Hull. Last 2 games, they really put up a fight and they got their rewards in the 2 victories. Well, last week against Bournemouth, they had next to nothing and got the 3 points. So that's what you want, really. I don't care how badly you play or don't do anything, but if you get the 3 points, you get the 3 points. That's all you need. Swansea, yeah, they've done okay recently, in my opinion. Done okay. Very good result in midweek against QPR. Frustrated them. I'm going to go 1-1. Obviously, the players are on form. I'm worried. I don't think if Shota Avaladze does take charge, I don't think he will take charge this weekend's game. I think he'll do the week after. Speaking of not playing well, but getting the 3 points, Luton Town, they're at home to Blackburn, who are currently second in the Championship. Blackburn beat Middlesbrough 1-0 last Monday. Luton beat Bristol City 2-1 at the Kenny. We were both there. Luton were horrendous, but picked up 3 points.
Yeah, 2 really poor performances in a row, actually. I was at Sheffield United on the Saturday, which wasn't much better, but was still probably better than the Bristol City game. But as you say, we're at the stage of the season now where results are more important than performances. And Luton made a calculated decision to rest players last Saturday, and it worked out because Adebayo came back and eventually scored the winner with a tiniest toe poke on the ball. Blackburn really impressed me, without Ben Brereton Diaz, they played in a slightly different way. They're one of the first teams that have managed to nullify Chris Wilder's Middlesbrough for 90 minutes, which was really encouraging defensively. And they do look strong at the back, which we've accused Blackburn of for a long time. They've both drawn one of their last 6, but I still think this is going to be a draw. Nothing would suggest it's going to be. I'm going back for my Championship's favourite scoreline, and I actually think both teams will be pretty happy with it, 1-1.
Right, I seem to have a vendetta when I'm privately chatting to you guys about Blackburn. I still don't see anything special in this Blackburn side, despite them being second place. But they did pick up a good victory against Middlesbrough without Burris and Diaz, you said Gallagher with the winner. Luton, on the other hand, yes, they made changes. Yes, they were rubbish. Yes, they picked up 3 points. The changes had to be made. We are playing literally Tuesday, Saturday. How are you going to deal with Gallagher? Because it always seems to be a good battle between the Luton defence and Sam Gallagher. So tight game, feisty atmosphere. Luton did that against Bournemouth. They got a point against Fulham, as you said, against top sides. I'm going to go 1-0 Luton. Goal scored by Alan Campbell. There you go. You heard it here first. Don't bet on it.
Don't gamble on anything we say.
Don't ever gamble whatever we say. We're normally wrong. Right. Next up, it's Middlesbrough versus Coventry at the Riverside Stadium. Middlesbrough obviously lost 1-0 to Blackburn. Coventry beat Stoke 1-0 and Coventry back into winning ways at home, which was pleasing for them. Middlesbrough obviously on very good form. Obviously, a bit of a setback there with that 1-0 defeat to Blackburn.
Yeah, and they were pretty poor as well. I mentioned it in the last one. They were nullified. They only had one shot on target, I think, in the whole game. On the other hand, Coventry, probably the best performance we've seen in a while. I know they won 4-1 on the road the other week, but this was against a good side competing for a playoff place with them. They restricted Stoke to no shots on target. They have plenty of their own. And Gyökeres getting back on the score sheet is crucial for them as they move towards the end of the season because the goals had dried up a little bit aside from that Peterborough game. I really think this is one of the hardest ones of the weekend. And I know that Coventry fans will hate me for doing it because they've drawn more games than they've lost on the road. But I think they will lose this one because Chris Wilder, let's be fair, it's been 2 pretty poor performances in a row because the Reading one wasn't pretty either. I think we're going to see a big turnaround from Middlesbrough this weekend. I think we're going to see one of the strongest performances in a while. And I think it's going to be a comfortable 2-0 victory for Middlesbrough. But Coventry fans won't mind that because if I say they're going to win, they never do.
Well, I don't think Coventry are going to win either. So they're really going to be pleased with that. But I'm going one better. I think they're going to be a draw, 1-1 draw at Riverside Stadium. Obviously, Middlesbrough have made the Riverside Underworld a bit of a fortress now. The fans seem to be coming back into the ground. It's going to be a tight game, really, really tight game. If Coventry can cut out the silly mistakes at the back, they can get something out of it. I think 1-1 probably be right in this game. Very tight affair, I think it's going to be. Right, next up, 2 teams not really in good form. Millwall versus West Bromwich Albion. Millwall lost 1-0 at Blackpool. West Brom lost 2-0 at home to Preston in midweek. Millwall 3 straight defeats. West Brom, no shot on target. No Daryl DK. He's out for 8 weeks. Sam Johnson's got internal problems inside the club, so he won't be available for this weekend's game either. That feels like a transfer. What's gone wrong at West Brom?
They're not scoring goals, quite frankly. If you take out the Peterborough game where they came late on, a blank with no shots on target against Preston, none against QPR, 1 in the cup against Brighton, 1 at home to a Cardiff side that were shipping goals galore all season, and a 1-0 defeat at Derby, who have barely scored a goal all season. So they're just not scoring. We thought DK was going to be the answer to that. I certainly did. And he's out before he's even got himself settled in. So I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say that by the next time Daryl DK plays for West Brom, his manager won't be Valérien Ismaël. I'm certain of that now, to be honest. I think there's a chance he might go this weekend if he loses to Millwall because they're sliding quickly. And we've seen before with West Brom, Darren Moore was in a much better position than this and he lost his job. So I don't think we're talking too long. And equally, West Brom could be out the playoffs by the end of this weekend. So I think that might be the trigger point for them. Similar, as we said to Bournemouth earlier on, though, at the moment, they're quite lucky they're playing Millwall. And not often would you say, fortunately, they're going to the Den. But Millwall really struggled in recent weeks. They were far inferior against Blackpool. They weren't great in a couple of games before it. It's 4 defeats in a row in all competitions. And I'm sure there's going to be some late January work for both of these sides because they need to just get something fresh into the squad. I don't know how to separate them, but I genuinely think Millwall might nick it. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Millwall, and I'm predicting a manager special on Monday.
I just wrote 1-0 to Millwall as well, but I will change it because I'm that good. I'm going to go 2-1. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 2-1 Millwall, should I say. Yeah, West Brom totally, I'll say took that out for Millwall. Doing worse at the moment, but Millwall do turn up on the occasion, just pick up that odd win. You're like, oh, that's a good result for them. West Brom, fans are starting to turn on Ismaël. They were singing about Slaven Bilic, so that's a really worrying sign from that point of view. you have that feeling that West Brom board will panic. And as you said, Darren Moore was in a good position before, and they got rid of him. Yeah, 2-1 Millwall. Right, next up, detail is Preston versus Bristol City. Preston and Bristol City both played midweek. Preston won 2-0 at West Brom, as we just mentioned, and Bristol City lost 2-1 at Luton. We'll go on to Bristol City first because we actually watched them. First half-wise, they had all that stuff and then conceded from basically conceded the 2 worst goals you probably see all season in the Championship.
Yeah, they were sloppy defensively, which I think will annoy Nigel Pearson more than the performance.
Oh, it did.
Because they're the sort of goals he hates conceding, and his teams have been founded on those, the successful ones over the years. I've got to say that Bristol City, as you said, they were very good in possession. They were tidy to watch, but bar set pieces, I'd argue they didn't hugely look like scoring at any point, really. And defensively, they're all over the shop. And that is the most surprising thing from the Nigel Pearson side. I mean, you only have to look at their last 5 games. Yes, they beat Millwall, but they conceded 2 in that. Then 1 against Fulham in the Cup, albeit that went to extra time. But then 6 at Fulham, 2 against Cardiff, 2 against Luton. They're all at sea. They're struggling. They've let in 49 goals. They've actually overtaken Cardiff now as the 3rd worst in the league behind Reading and Peterborough. And Preston, they were really good against West Brom. And they look like they're going to be very comfortable now. And you can start to see the coaching impact that Ryan Lowe's had on that team. So I thought Preston were impressive, albeit they needed to bounce back after the weekend. I have to go for them again. I'm going to go for Preston to win by 2-1.
Great result for Preston. Cameron Archer coming on 10 minutes into his debut and scoring. That's a positive as well. Looks like a good deal from Ryan Lowe. As I said, Bristol had all that stuff in the first half. Didn't have the shot on target. I think the first shot on target was the goal. I think Vineman's goal. So I just knew we looked and win. And obviously, yeah, they piled it on at Bristol City near the end, and James Shea made a good save, and Wyman had a header, and Naki Wells hit the side netting. But you just knew they weren't going to get anything, in my opinion. They're not going to get anything out of Preston as well, because I was actually really impressed with Preston's result. I just have that hasn't taken a lot out of them. 2-0 to Preston, I'm going to go for. Right, next up, the Kieran Prince Foundation Stadium. It is QPR versus Reading. QPR drew 0-0 with Swansea. Reading lost again 4-3 this time to Huddersfield. It was 3-0 at half-time in that game. Yeah, if you're going to score 3, you can't concede 4. You really can't.
Yeah, what the problem was for me is the fact, I know it might be that it was too quick a turnaround, but they had both the fullbacks back from AFCON. They had a bit more of an experienced defence, and they're still letting goals galore. And I mean, the last 5 games, if you include Kidderminster, in fact, go back to Derby as well, it is a horrific defensive record, obviously with the 7 against Fulham in the middle, but 2 or more in every game. And I've said it before, I'm very worried about them. And this is one of those games where they're probably not expected to get a result, but now becomes more important because of some of the others. QPR, I actually look at it a bit of a different way, to be honest. They were probably as poor as you'll see them against Swansea. They were probably the inferior side. They didn't have many chances in comparison, but they got a result. And at this stage of the season, when you're playing 2 or 3 games a week, they won the 2 before by the odd goal, and then they nicked a draw against Swansea. I don't think it's a disaster. So I think QPR are going to win this comfortably. Surely, if ever they're going to find their scoring boots, it's going to be this one. I'm going to go for 3-1. Yeah.
Reading have had a horrendous 2022. The only positive I can probably get out of Reading is Lucas Yow's back on the score sheet. QPR, yeah, obviously that run of straight wins have come to an end. My worry for QPR is they're only got a goal difference of +9. Those sort of positions, especially the goal difference, could be vital for the playoffs. So we'll have to wait and see on that. QPR will win this game for me quite comfortably, 2-0. Right, next up at London Road is Peterborough United versus Sheffield United. Peterborough played midweek, drew 2-2 against Birmingham, considering they were 2-0 up. Sheffield United beat Luton 2-0. You obviously went to watch Sheffield United last Saturday. Let's start with them. 5 minutes, 2 goals.
Yeah, it was very similar to Bristol City, but just with a little tiny ruthless streak, which is they dominated the game from start to finish. They were great on the ball. Everything from their own box to our box was fantastic. That middle third was lovely, but they didn't look particularly ruthless. In the end, it was a couple of very sloppy goals, one from a set piece with a free header, etc. And once Luton went down to 10, they kept the ball and created some chances. But you can see why at times this season they've struggled for goals. It's got to be said. Peterborough, it's ironic, really. I said in the midweek episode, it's really important that they at least start to pick up points on the road. They got a point, which at the start of the game would have probably been a decent result. But in the circumstances, it's horrific. Because 2-0 up against a side that had one shot on target at the time, to throw it away in the last 5 minutes, it's inexcusable at this stage of the season, and it can be the difference. Look at the difference there with Reading struggling. They could have been level on points going into this weekend, and that's the difference we're talking about. So I think Sheffield United will be too strong. If they find their strikers in scoring form, they'll win it. But I'm going to go 2-1 Sheffield United, although they could capitulate like they did against Coventry, then it might be a couple more.
We said Peterborough need to pick up these victories, and I don't know if they just look tired by the time they conceded the first goal. I don't know. Sheffield United, back to winning ways. Last time between these two teams finished 6-2 to Sheffield United. It's definitely not going to be 6-2 this time. It's a TV game as well. My days. It's a TV game. 1-0 Sheffield United. Right, let's move on to Sunday. 2 games there. Derby versus Birmingham at Pride Park. Derby lost 2-1 to Nottingham Forest. And Birmingham got that comeback 2-2 victory, 2-2 draw against Peterborough United. Obviously, we talked about Derby in the midweek because we were talking about Forest. Derby didn't do anything and obviously had a lifeline with that penalty. Those that sort of obviously being against Forest, that's the game you really got to be up for, and they really were disappointing.
They were. It almost looked like they'd just run out of steam. Obviously, the takeover situation or the administration situation was getting a bit tense at that point. Some media reports making things sound a little worse than they were. The good news, obviously, they've been granted an extension now to get the deal done. So they've got at least another month to sort that out throughout February. So I actually think there might be a little bit more of a bounce within the Derby dressing room and certainly in the stands. And against Birmingham, I know they've picked up 4 points in the last 2 games, but despite the late fight back against Peterborough, they've not convinced. They've obviously had the extra midweek game, which may well have an effect. And Birmingham do like to concede a goal. They've let in 42 in their 28 games. They've got one of the worst goal differences outside the relegation zone. I think Derby have got a chance, and I'm going to go for them to get back to their classic. I'm going to go 1-0 Derby win.
On the field wise, they were rubbish against Forest. Let me down big time. Surprised not Lawrence hasn't even got a move yet. I'll be brutally honest.
Probably his wages.
Maybe the wages. This could be his final game. I think they might do one before the deadline. I think it'll be Lawrence's final game, and I'm going to say he will score, and they're going to win 2-1. And the final game at the Cardiff City Stadium, it's Cardiff versus Nottingham Forest. Cardiff lost 3 to the Bristol City. I don't get what's going on with Cardiff, because they pick up a good result here and then they'll lose to Bristol City, for God's sake. So, and the only positive I can think of is good to see James Collins scoring.
Yeah, and he's become probably their most important striker on recent form. But one of the things that frustrated me with Cardiff, they just started to shore up a bit defensively. A good point at West Brom. They were decent against Blackburn defensively despite the defeat, and they played all right against Preston in the cup. But that was a return to the old ways. Couple of silly goals, not the best performance. And look, they're only 3 points clear. The Steve Morrison to the end of the season was a risk, and it's still looking at the minute. So I'm not entirely convinced by them. They're coming up against one of the form teams in the Championship. Comfortable win against Barnsley for Forest. Good win in the Derby. Good win at Millwall the week before. Great win against Arsenal in the FA Cup. They've obviously got the big derby in the Cup to look forward to next week against Leicester as well. Everything's looking great at Forest. They're 1 point off the playoffs, and nobody would have predicted that when Chris Hughton left the club after losing to Cardiff earlier in the season. So I think it's a really good sign for Forest. Cardiff are now officially the worst home team in the league. 7 points from 12 games. I can't see past Forest. One of the best teams on the road, so defensively stout. I'm going to go for 2-0 Nottingham Forest to finish.
Do you know that Cardiff-Bristol City game? I know I said the goals Bristol City conceded against Luton were bad. The goals Bristol City conceded against Cardiff were bad. The goals that Cardiff conceded against Bristol City were just as bad as well. So if you want a good defensive game, don't go and watch Cardiff or Bristol City, with all due respect. Considering when Mick McCarthy took over last season and how defensively sound they were.
They were fantastic.
So now when they just falling apart, it's mind-boggling. Forest, on the other hand, looking ruthless. They look And what we weren't saying for the last year and a half, they're looking ruthless when they're going attacking. They're actually taking their chances. Graben's on form. Brennan Johnson's on form. It's been a brilliant month, as you said. Steve Cooper's been fantastic. 3-1 to Nottingham Forest. And let's have a quick recap what we have just predicted for this weekend's action in the Championship. I've gone Bournemouth to batter Barnsley by 4-0. Daniel Coe's going for a convincing Fulham win against Blackpool, but 3-0. And there's the odd Championship favourite scorelines. And those are predictions for this weekend's action in the Championship. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down below. And give us your predictions for this weekend's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter @HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.